The Alpha King saw her crying in the rain and whispered, "From now on, you're mine. What he then do next will shock you." The rain fell hard that night, each drop like shards of glass cutting through the cold. Lyra Vale knelt in the mud, trembling, her thin cloak plastered to her skin. Her fingers clutched the small silver pendant that used to belong to her mother, the only thing left after the fire consumed her village. Around her, the ruins smoked. The air stank of wet ash and wolf blood. Somewhere in the distance, a howl tore through the storm. She flinched. They said wolves didn't hunt during thunder, but tonight was different. Tonight, they hunted the last of the humans who defied the Alpha King. Lightning split the sky, and for a moment she saw her reflection in the puddle, a girl with eyes too broken for her age. She didn't notice the shadow moving behind her until it spoke, low and dangerous. "Why are you crying in my rain?" He stood there, towering, soaked and silent. The Alpha King. His black cloak clung to his broad shoulders, dripping with rain. His golden eyes burned through the darkness like molten fire. Lyra froze. Every story she'd heard about Cale Draven said he was ruthless, born of the moon's fury, cursed to destroy whatever he touched. Yet the man before her wasn't just a beast. He was heartbreak wrapped in armor. His voice carried power that made the ground hum. She tried to speak, but her throat betrayed her. I didn't mean to trespass," she whispered, gripping her pendant. "Please, I'll go." Cale's gaze softened just slightly. "No one leaves Shadowfen once they enter. Not alive, at least." He took a step closer, the storm bending around him, thunder bowing to his presence. The scent of smoke and sorrow clung to her. Cale could smell it. Fear, grief, and something else he couldn't name. Something pure. His instinct screamed to walk away. She was human, fragile, useless to a king of beasts. But there was something in the way she refused to look away, even as her tears mixed with the rain. It was defiance wrapped in fragility. He hadn't seen that in years. "Who burned your home?" he asked, though he already knew. The human villages had rebelled against the blood pact, and his own men, his own wolves, had crushed them. Lyra swallowed hard. "Your army," she said, her voice trembling but steady. "Your wolves killed them all." The words cut deeper than any silver blade. Cale's jaw tightened. He'd ordered that campaign. He thought it was necessary. He hadn't expected to meet the ghost of his own cruelty on a night like this. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Two broken souls under a sky that refused to stop crying. Cale's eyes flickered, something unreadable crossing his face. Then slowly, he reached out, brushing a strand of wet hair from her cheek. "You should hate me," he said quietly. "I do," she breathed, though her heart raced in confusion. He smiled bitterly. "Good. Hate keeps you alive." He turned to leave, but something primal made him stop. He looked back, rain dripping from his lashes. "What's your name?" "Lyra." Her voice was barely audible, a whisper lost to the wind. Cale's lips parted, and the words that left them felt like a vow carved into the storm. "From now on," he murmured, "you're mine." The words struck like lightning. Lyra froze, every instinct screaming to run. But before she could, the Alpha King lifted her effortlessly into his arms. His touch was ice and fire all at once. The storm howled louder, as if the heavens themselves protested what he had just done. She could hear his heart, a steady, controlled rhythm, like a drum in the dark. Why? Why me? Kale's gaze met hers, fierce and haunted. Because, he said, his voice a growl softened by sorrow. Because the moon doesn't make mistakes, and neither do I. With that, he carried her through the rain toward the looming castle in the distance, Shadowfen Keep, where destiny waited behind iron gates and secrets older than the stars. The storm followed them, howling its warning that the Alpha King had claimed what even fate dared not touch. The night the fire came to Eldervale Village, the air reeked of smoke and fear. Lyra had been gathering herbs near the riverbank when the first howl split the silence. It wasn't the kind that sent shivers down the spine. It was the kind that promised blood. She ran, her bare feet slapping against the wet earth, the forest blazing red behind her. Houses burned like candles in the storm, and wolves, men turned beast, tore through the streets. "Find the girl," someone shouted. "The healer's daughter." Flames reflected in her tears as she stumbled into the ashes of her home. Her mother's pendant lay on the ground, still warm. Her father's voice was gone. Only silence. Only fire. And above it all, a black banner with a silver moon, the mark of the Alpha King's army. She'd heard stories of the Alpha King, Khal Draven, the cursed ruler who could command storms and slaughter kings with the whisper. They said no one ever saw his face and lived to tell it, but as she hid behind the broken well that night, she saw him. Just a glimpse, cloaked in shadow, golden eyes burning through the smoke, watching from a ridge. He didn't move to strike. He simply watched. And when one of his wolves lunged at her, a sudden bolt of lightning split the ground, killing the beast instantly. Lyra didn't understand it then, but she would remember that flash for years. The Alpha King had spared her, once, and mercy in his world always had a price. In the days that followed, Lyra wandered the forest, half alive. The villagers were gone, the healers dead, and the rain never stopped. She built a shelter near the ruins, surviving on berries and herbs. But every night, she dreamed of the fire and of him, the man with the molten eyes who had both saved and doomed her. Sometimes she woke up with his name on her lips. Sometimes she whispered it to the trees, ashamed. Khal. It sounded like a sin, yet something inside her, the same part that survived when everything else burned, believed she'd see him again. Not because fate was kind, but because it never stopped what it started. Far away, in the high tower of Shadowfen Keep, Khal Draven stood before the Mirror of Moons, a relic that showed the faces of those marked by the curse. His reflection flickered between man and beast, his claws pressed against the glass, cracking it slightly. "She lives," he murmured. Roven, his beta, stepped forward, confused. "Who, my king?" Khal's eyes gleamed gold. "The girl from the Eldervale, the one the fire should have taken." Roven frowned. "Why does that matter? She's human." Khal turned sharply, his voice low and dangerous. "Because I saw her in the storm last night. The moon hasn't stopped watching her since." And deep in his chest, something old and forbidden stirred. The pull of a bond he'd sworn never to feel again. Lyra sat by the river, clutching her mother's pendant, unaware that her quiet life had ended the moment she crossed into Shadowfen's territory. The clouds above twisted like living shadows, the scent of wolves thick in the air. She thought she heard whispers in the wind, low voices calling her name. The pendant pulsed once, faintly glowing blue. She froze. Then a howl shattered the night. Close, too close. It wasn't any howl. It was the call of the Alpha King, summoning his own. And though she didn't understand why, her body trembled not in fear, but in recognition. Somewhere deep in her blood, something ancient awoke. The girl from the fire was not who she thought she was, and the moon had just claimed her for its own. Rain dripped from the trees in silver threads as dawn crept over Eldermoon. Lyra woke to a strange warmth spreading across her chest, the pendant glowing faintly against her skin. She touched it and felt a pulse, soft but alive, as if a second heart beat beneath the metal. Her breath hitched. This wasn't ordinary magic. The pendant had belonged to her mother, a healer known for charms that soothed pain, not ones that breathed. She whispered, "What are you?" The moment the words left her lips, the forest stirred. Ravens took flight from the branches, and a low hum echoed through the ground. Then, carved symbols appeared faintly on the pendant's back, runes older than any human tongue. Lyra had seen them once, long ago, in a forbidden book. They were lunar sigils, marks of the werewolf kings. In Shadowfen Keep, Cale Draven jolted awake. The bond had whispered to him again, like lightning behind his ribs. He stood, chest rising with barely restrained power, the scent of storm and woman in his lungs. "It's her," he muttered. Rovan entered the chamber, eyes wary. "You've been restless since the rain began," the beta said. "Tell me the truth. What binds you to this human?" Cale's eyes flicked gold. "She's not just human. There's power in her blood. The old blood." He paced toward the window where the storm clouds coiled around the castle spires. "My curse stirs when she's near. The moon calls her name." Rovan frowned. "Then kill her before she kills you." Cale's lips curved in a dangerous smile. "You don't kill the cure, Rovan. You claim it." That evening, Lyra followed the pulse of the pendant to the river's edge. Mist curled above the water like ghostly fingers. The air shimmered, and suddenly, she wasn't alone. A woman's voice floated through the mist, soft and echoing. "Child of silver flame, you bear the mark of the moon." Lyra spun around. "Who's there?" The fog thickened until a form appeared, a woman in a flowing white gown, her eyes glowing pale blue. "I am Era, seer of the old moon. Your mother hid the truth to protect you, but the king of wolves has found you." Lyra's heartbeat thundered in her ears. "Why me?" Era's gaze softened. "Because only your blood can break his curse. But if he claims you before the moon's next rise," she stepped closer, voice trembling, "you'll never be free again." The forest howled, branches snapped. Lyra turned and saw eyes in the dark, golden, fierce, familiar. Cale stepped into view, cloak dripping, the rain hissing off his skin. "You shouldn't be here," he growled. Era vanished into mist, her voice fading. "Choose wisely, child of flame." Cale's gaze locked on Lyra's pendant. "You have no idea what you carry." "Then tell me," she demanded. "Why does it burn when you're near?" His jaw clenched. "Because your blood calls to mine. You're tied to me by a bond older than time itself." He stepped closer until his breath warmed her cheek. "And that mark," his eyes glowed, "means you belong to the moon and to me." For a heartbeat, silence reigned. Only the rain dared to move. Lyra's mind screamed to run, yet her body didn't obey. She felt the power in his presence, wild, magnetic, wrong, and yet it didn't frighten her anymore. It called to something buried deep within. "I don't belong to anyone," she whispered. Kale's lips curved, half pain, half promise. "You will," he murmured, brushing his thumb across her jaw. "The moon chose you for me, Lyra, and the moon never makes mistakes." As thunder rolled across the forest, he turned away, his voice dark and low. "Tomorrow night, the blood moon rises, and when it does, you'll see what destiny truly means." And with that, the Alpha King vanished into the mist, leaving Lyra trembling, caught between the fear of being hunted and the ache of being wanted. The sun never truly rose that day. It hid behind clouds so thick the kingdom seemed trapped in twilight. Lyra spent the morning pacing the edge of the forest, clutching her mother's pendant as if it could steady her heart. The words of the witch, child of flame, echoed in her mind. Her mother had never spoken of such things, never hinted that their bloodline was anything but human. And yet, when she stared at her reflection in the river, her eyes glowed faintly, silver like moonlight. "No," she whispered, stepping back. "This isn't real." But deep down, she knew something inside her was changing. The air tingled around her skin, like the forest itself was watching, waiting for her to remember who she really was. Somewhere far off, a horn sounded, the wolves' call to prepare for the blood moon. Inside Shadowfen Keep, Kale stood before the throne of obsidian, surrounded by his pack. Flames burned blue in the iron torches, casting long shadows across the stone floor. Rovan knelt. "The blood moon rises tonight, my king. What are your orders?" Kale's golden eyes flickered with restrained power. "No hunting near the river. The girl stays untouched." A murmur rippled through the wolves. Rovan looked up sharply. "Untouched? You would protect a human?" Kale's tone dropped to a growl. "She is not human. She carries the sigil of the first moon. If she dies, we all remain cursed." The pack fell silent. Rovan's expression hardened. "And if she lives?" Kale turned toward the great window where crimson light began to bleed through the clouds. "Then I do too," he said quietly, "but not as a king, as something far worse." By dusk, the forest pulsed with red light. The moon rose, huge and blood-colored, painting every leaf in scarlet. Lyra stood beneath it, trembling as the pendant on her chest blazed bright. A burning pain seared through her veins. She gasped, collapsing to her knees. The earth beneath her shook, symbols flaring to life in the soil, a circle of ancient runes forming around her. Wind howled, the air thick with silver mist. She could hear whispers, thousands of them, calling her name. "Lyra, Lyra Vale." Her eyes widened. The pendant melted into her skin, leaving behind a glowing crescent mark over her heart. Pain turned to power, fear to fury. She screamed and the forest answered. Lightning struck a tree nearby. She could feel everything, the roots, the wind, even the heartbeats of the wolves hiding in the shadows. At that exact moment, Kale felt it too. A surge of energy hit him like a storm inside his chest. He fell to one knee, clutching his heart as veins of silver light burned beneath his skin. "The bond, it's awakening," he gasped. Rovan stared in shock. "She's triggering it." Kale's voice was rough, primal. "No, the moon is claiming her. If she can't control it, it will kill her." Without hesitation, he shifted, bones snapping, black fur bursting through his armor as the great alpha wolf took form. Massive, sleek, and crowned with streaks of silver. He leapt through the castle window and vanished into the crimson night, the forest parting before him. Every wolf within miles dropped to its belly as he passed. The blood moon had awakened its chosen, and the king was going to find her. Lyra knelt within the glowing circle, the mark on her chest pulsing like a heartbeat of fire. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "Make it stop," she whispered to the moon. "Please." The wind howled louder. Then a shadow emerged from the trees. Kale. His wolf form towered over her, eyes burning gold, fur drenched in red moonlight. She froze, breath ragged, fear and recognition tangled together. He stepped closer, the earth trembling with each move, then lowered his massive head until their eyes met. Slowly, painfully, he shifted back into human form, the transformation leaving him scarred and gasping. Rain began to fall again, soft and cold. He reached for her, his voice breaking through the storm. "Lyra, fight it. Don't let it take you." But the mark burned brighter, and her body lifted from the ground, her scream slicing through the night. And somewhere, deep within the storm, something ancient answered her call. The night burned red and silver. Lyra hovered above the ground, her body enveloped in light that pulsed like a living flame. The runes around her blazed brighter, weaving into a glowing circle of power. Kale shielded his face, the heat scorching his skin even as rain poured down. "Lyra!" he shouted. She didn't hear him, couldn't. Her eyes had turned pure white, her hair lifting in the wind like living fire. She was no longer just human. She was something ancient, something celestial. Kale could feel the pull of the bond, the same thread that tied his cursed heart to the moon. The air shimmered, and he saw flashes, visions of a time before kingdoms, when gods and wolves shared one soul. Then the light shattered. Lyra fell. Kale caught her before she hit the ground, the scent of lightning and ash thick between them. Her mark still glowed faintly against his chest. "You survived," he murmured. "But at what cost?" Inside the keep, chaos erupted. Rovan stormed into the war chamber, the beta's voice cutting through the din. "The blood moon has chosen a human." The council erupted in growls. "Blasphemy! It will doom us all." Rovan raised a hand, silencing them. "The king is blinded by her. The curse was meant to be endured, not broken. If she unlocks it, the balance falls." From the shadows a voice purred, a figure cloaked in green silk, eyes the color of venom. "Ira." "You speak the truth, Wolf," she said softly, "but you misunderstand. The curse cannot be undone by force. It must be shared. When the bond between beast and flame completes, one will die, the other will be free." Rovan's jaw clenched. "And if the alpha falls?" Ira smiled, her fangs glinting. "Then the throne falls with him." Kale carried Lyra through the rain to an abandoned shrine deep within the forest. The place reeked of old magic. Stone wolves lined the walls, their eyes filled with moonlight. He laid her gently on the altar. "Stay with me," he whispered, brushing her damp hair from her forehead. Her breathing was shallow, her lips pale. When he touched the mark over her heart, it pulsed beneath his fingers, sending a jolt up his arm. He gritted his teeth, feeling the curse writhe inside him. For centuries, the curse had been his crown, a punishment for slaughtering the first moon priestess, the goddess's chosen vessel. And now, fate had sent him another, a girl with the same power, the same light. "You shouldn't exist," he whispered, his voice trembling between awe and fear. "And yet, you're all that's left of what I destroyed." Lyra stirred. Her voice was weak, but her words were steady. "You knew. You knew I was marked." Kale froze. I suspected. She looked at him, tears mixed with rain. Then why save me? He exhaled, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. Because the moon took everything else from me, it won't take you too. His hand brushed her cheek, rough yet trembling. Do you think I enjoy this curse? Every night I hear the screams of those I killed. The moon made me its weapon. But when I saw you crying in the rain, his eyes darkened, his voice breaking. For the first time in 100 years, I wanted to be something else. Lyra's gaze softened, even as pain rippled through her. And what is that? She whispered. Kel's voice was a low growl. Yours. Outside, thunder cracked. The shrine doors burst open, and Rovan appeared with a dozen wolves. His eyes gleamed with betrayal. Step away from her, my king. Kale turned slowly, his expression cold. You dare raise your voice in my presence? Rovan bared his fangs. I dare because you've lost your mind. The pack whispers that you've fallen for a human witch. His words dripped venom. She's the reason our ancestors suffer. Her kind burned the priestess. This is not love, it's madness. Kale's claws extended, his voice low and deadly. You forget your place. Rovan's lips curled into a snarl. Then kill me and prove the curse owns you. The room trembled. Lyra struggled to sit up, pain racking her body. Stop, she gasped. Don't fight, please. But Kale's eyes glowed like fire, and with a roar that shook the heavens, the Alpha King lunged. The blood moon outside flared, and the shrine's ancient wolves opened their stone eyes. The war for fate had begun. The shrine trembled with power as Kale and Rovan collided, claws flashing, growls echoing like thunder inside the sacred walls. Lyra cried out, but neither heard her. The Alpha King and his beta had hunted together for centuries, but tonight, loyalty shattered under the blood moon. Kale's movements were brutal precision, each strike forged from rage and heartbreak. Rovan met him with savage grace, eyes burning with a hatred long hidden. You'd throw away your kingdom for her? Rovan snarled, slashing across Kale's chest, blood sprayed against the stone. Kale didn't flinch. I'd burn the kingdom before I let it touch her, he growled, driving Rovan back with the crushing blow. Their howls tore through the forest, summoning wolves from miles away. The pack gathered outside the shrine, watching their leaders turn brothership into ruin. Inside, Lyra pressed a trembling hand against her pendant scar, the mark pulsing like it wanted to interfere. Stop, she whispered. The air answered with lightning. Rovan stumbled, but didn't fall. His grin was feral. You're weak, Kale. The curse was never meant to be broken. It was meant to bind. You've forgotten what you are. Kale's eyes flared gold. And you've forgotten who made you. He lunged again, claws meeting claws, their strength shattering the altar into dust. Lyra screamed as fragments flew around her. Her blood mingled with the ash, and suddenly the runes on the walls ignited in silver fire. Both wolves froze. From the broken altar, a voice rose. Not human, not alive. Children of the moon, it echoed. You repeat the sins of your fathers. Lyra's eyes widened. The voice was the same she had heard in her dreams. The moon priestess. The fire gathered into a glowing figure above them, half light, half shadow. One will betray, one will break, and one will burn. Then the light vanished, leaving silence that tasted like doom. Kale lowered his claws slowly, breathing hard. Rovan, he said, stand down. This is not the way. But the beta's gaze had gone hollow, his mind twisting with fury. You were my alpha, My brother, but you let her, a human, turn you into prey? He lunged again, faster than before, and this time, Kale didn't block. The blade hidden in Rovin's hand pierced his side. Lyra gasped, running forward. No! Kale stumbled, blood staining his cloak black. His knees hit the ground. Rovin's expression flickered, half victory, half guilt. It didn't have to be this way, he muttered. Kale coughed, his voice a growl through the pain. You're right. It didn't. He slammed his hand to the floor, and a ripple of power burst outward, throwing Rovin across the room. The wolves outside howled in agony as their bond with the alpha wavered. The shrine's walls cracked. The forest screamed. The curse had been awakened fully now. Lyra ran to Kale's side, pressing her hands against his wound. Don't move, she said, tears mixing with blood. You'll make it worse. Kale's lips twitched into a faint smile. You're trembling, he murmured. I thought you hated me. I still do, but I don't want you to die. His golden eyes softened, pain flickering behind them. Then maybe there's hope for me yet. Rovin groaned, pushing himself up. His face twisted with rage. You can't stop what's coming. The pack will never follow a king bound to a human witch. Kale tried to rise, but Lyra held him down. Don't, she pleaded. Her mark flared again, silver light spilling from her palms onto his wound. Kale gasped as the bleeding slowed. The light burned his skin, yet healed it too. What are you doing? He breathed. Lyra looked at him, voice trembling. I don't know. I just know I can't lose you. Outside, the wolves began to fight among themselves, divided between loyalty and rebellion. Rovin's followers howled for blood, while Kale stood guard around the shrine. The moon turned darker, red deepening to black. A storm gathered overhead. Rovin wiped blood from his mouth, glaring at Lyra. You think your light can save him? You're his doom, girl. He turned and vanished into the forest, his laughter echoing like prophecy. Kale exhaled slowly, his body trembling from exhaustion. Lyra leaned against him, both drenched in rain and silence. For a long moment the world felt still, until Kale spoke, his voice raw. This war won't stop now. He'll gather the others. The pack will hunt you. Lyra met his gaze. Then run together. Kale's jaw tightened. Run? She nodded, fierce and certain. Until the moon decides who we really are. He stared at her for a long time, then nodded once. Then so be it. The alpha runs with the flame. And under the dying moonlight, they disappeared into the storm. The forest slept for no one that night. Its trees bent low as though eavesdropping, their roots slick with rain. Kel and Lyra ran through the mist, their breath ghosting in the cold air. The sound of pursuit echoed behind them, paws striking mud, snarls cutting through thunder. The pack was close. Kel moved like a shadow, his strength barely dimmed despite his wound. Don't stop, he growled. Lyra's legs burned, but she kept pace, clutching the faintly glowing mark on her chest. Each step was agony, yet some part of her knew she couldn't let go of him, not now. Lightning tore the sky open, revealing dozens of eyes glinting in the darkness. Wolves. Rovin's rebels. Kel's jaw tightened. He's faster than I thought. Lyra looked at him, gasping. Can't we reason with them? Kel's eyes flashed gold. There's no reason left when wolves smell blood. He caught her hand. Stay close. Whatever happens, don't scream. They burst into a clearing bathed in silver rain. The air here shimmered with old power, the ruins of a forgotten temple, half swallowed by vines. Kel stopped, scanning the shadows. This place is sacred, he murmured. Even Rovin's dogs will hesitate here. Lyra sank to the ground, trembling. How long can we run? She whispered. Kel knelt beside her, his breath heavy. Until I find a way to end this. He met her eyes. You shouldn't have stayed back there. I could have handled him. You would have died, she said softly. Maybe that would have been easier. Kel looked away, rain tracing his scars. Death's never been the problem, Lyra. Living is. For a moment, the storm fell silent between them. The tension was raw, alive, like lightning waiting to strike. Then a howl pierced the night, closer than before. Kel stood, claws unsheathing. They found us. He turned to her. Hide. Don't move until I say so. The first wolf broke through the trees, snarling, a massive gray brute with Rovin scent. Kel met him head-on. Claws clashed, teeth tore flesh. The clearing became a blur of movement, a dance of violence under the moon. Lyra crouched behind a fallen column, watching, heart pounding so hard that it hurt. Every strike Kel made seemed both brutal and beautiful, a creature of rage and sorrow intertwined. But then she saw it, the silver light beneath his skin growing brighter, veins of moonfire crawling up his neck. The curse. It was consuming him again. His roar shook the forest, eyes turning blinding white. Kel! She cried. He froze for a heartbeat, hearing her voice through the chaos. That single moment of hesitation cost him. The gray wolf lunged, teeth sinking deep into Kel's shoulder. Blood sprayed. Lyra's body moved before her mind did. She ran into the storm. She grabbed a fallen blade from the ground, a hunter's silver dagger, corroded but sharp. The air crackled as she stepped into the circle of light. The gray wolf turned, snarling. Lyra's heart pounded, fear screaming at her to run. But something deeper, something ancient, rose instead. The mark on her chest flared, and her voice came out like a whisper that wasn't hers. By the moon's decree, I command you, kneel. The word kneel echoed through the clearing like thunder. The wolf froze mid-strike, eyes wide, body trembling. Even Kel stopped, breathing hard, staring at her in disbelief. The power radiating from her wasn't human. Lyra blinked, her own fear catching up to her. I don't know what I just... She didn't finish. The gray wolf howled once, then turned and fled into the trees, others following as if dragged by unseen force. The forest fell still. Only the sound of rain remained. Kel stumbled toward her, eyes wide with the mix of awe and horror. What did you do? He demanded. I don't know, Lyra stammered. I just wanted it to stop. Kel's gaze darkened. That wasn't wanted. That was the command. You spoke the ancient tongue, the language of alphas. He stepped closer, gripping her shoulders. Lyra, no human can speak it, not unless... He stopped, realization dawning in his eyes. Unless you're not fully human. She stared back, her mind spinning. What are you saying? Kel's voice was low, trembling. You carry the blood of the first priestess, the one I was cursed for killing. The wind stilled. The revelation hung between them like a blade. That's impossible, she whispered. Kel's expression was unreadable, torn between reverence and dread. No. It means the moon didn't send you to save me, Lyra. It sent you to finish what she started. And somewhere far off, the blood moon pulsed again. Watching, waiting, judging. The night had quieted, but the silence carried weight, like the pause before thunder strikes again. Lyra stood frozen in the ruins, Pael's words echoing inside her skull. You carry the blood of the first priestess. It didn't make sense. She was just a healer's daughter from Eldervale. Ordinary. Humans. Yet when she closed her eyes, fragments of memory that weren't hers flickered to dying candles, silver temples, moonlit altars, a voice chanting in a language older than time. Her chest burned where the mark glowed beneath her skin. "You're wrong," she said softly, shaking her head. "I'm no priestess. My mother was—" Her voice broke. "She was kind, not powerful." Kayal stepped closer, his gaze heavy with something between sorrow and fear. "Kindness and power aren't enemies, Lyra. Sometimes they're the same thing." He knelt before her, eyes lowered like a man before judgment. "If what I said is true, then your blood is the key to my curse, and I'm the blade that ended the woman who first bore it." Lightning flashed across the sky, and for a brief second, Lyra saw it, the beast behind his eyes, the centuries of guilt, rage, and loneliness buried under a king's armor. She swallowed, her voice trembling. "Tell me what you did." Kael's jaw tightened. "I killed the first priestess. Her name was Seraphine. She bound her spirit to the moon and cursed my line for eternity. Every alpha born after me would bear the beast and bow to the moon's will." His eyes flickered gold. "But before she died, she whispered something I didn't understand until now. When the fire returns to flesh, the wolf shall kneel." Lyra's heart pounded. "Fire? As in me?" Kael nodded slowly. "You're the fire, Lyra Vale. The reincarnation of the woman I destroyed." The truth hit her like a blow. The memories that weren't hers, the voice in her dreams, they all began to make sense. She staggered back, shaking. "Then I was sent to kill you?" Kael didn't deny it. "Perhaps. Or perhaps to forgive me." Rain fell harder, masking the tremor in her breath. She turned away, gripping her pendant, the one her mother had told her to never remove. It had protected her all her life, but now it pulsed like it recognized its purpose. "You said the curse binds you to the moon," she said quietly. "What happens if I break it?" Kael hesitated. Eyes shadowed. "If the bond breaks, the beast dies. But so do I." Lyra's breath caught. "Then I can't." "You must," Chaos said firmly. "The curse consumes everything it touches. It's already spreading to the pack. Rovin's rebellion isn't just ambition. It's infection." He stepped closer, his hand brushing her arm. "If you don't stop it, this kingdom will drown in blood. Better one monster die than 1,000 innocents." Lyra met his gaze, her heart twisting. "And if I refuse?" Kael's voice dropped to a whisper. "Then I'll become what they say I am. The wolf who devours his own fate." A rumble tore through the earth. The ruins around them trembled as moonlight pulled into the carvings beneath their feet. A voice rose from the stones. Ira's, distant but clear. "He cannot be freed unless the priestess chooses her path, kill or bind." Lyra turned toward the mist that shaped her form. "Ira!" she cried. "Tell me what to do." The witch's face appeared in the fog, eyes like twin moons. "The curse is older than your souls. Break it, and you burn with him. Bind it, and you belong to him." Lyra's heart stuttered. "There's no third way?" Ira's expression softened. "Love was never meant to save beasts, child. It was meant to test them." The mist dissolved. Chaos stared at Lyra, his voice low and rough. "Now you understand why I told you to run. And yet you followed me. Because even cursed kings are allowed one weakness, and mine is standing right in front of me. For a heartbeat,
The storm seemed to fade. She could feel his pulse through his fingertips, strong yet fragile, like the heartbeat of something human buried inside the monster. She wanted to hate him. She should have. But when he looked at her like that, she saw not the Alpha King who burned her world, but the man who carried its ashes. Her lips parted. Kale, if I break the curse, will it hurt? His smile was sad. Only if you care. She stepped back, tears mixing with the rain. Then it will. The mark on her chest flared again, the light now pulsing in rhythm with his heart. Somewhere far above, the clouds began to part, revealing the blood-red moon in full. Its light fell on them like judgment, and the wind whispered the words of the prophecy once more. One will betray, one will break, and one will burn. Neither spoke, because both of them knew. The fire had already been lit. The blood moon reached its highest point, painting the entire kingdom in crimson. Every wolf in Eldermoon felt it, the pulse of their alpha's curse spreading through the bond like wildfire. Kale stood in the ruins, trembling as the first wave hit him. His golden eyes flashed white, then black, then gold again. Lyra, he rasped, his voice shaking. Stay back. The veins under his skin glowed like molten silver, crawling up his neck. His body twisted, fighting the transformation. The moon. He fell to his knees, claws scraping the ground. It's calling me. Lyra rushed forward, heart pounding. Then fight it! I can't, he roared, the sound echoing through the forest like thunder. Trees shuddered, animals fled. It's stronger tonight. It knows you're here. His body convulsed as fur burst through his skin, the beast taking over inch by inch. Lyra grabbed his face, tears streaming. Kale, listen to me. You're not its slave. You're mine. For a moment, the madness faltered. He looked at her with human eyes again and whispered, then run, before I can't stop myself. But Lyra didn't run. The wind howled, lifting her cloak as she stepped closer. The mark on her chest burned like fire. If you lose yourself tonight, she said softly, then you'll lose me too. The beast inside him snarled, a sound that wasn't his voice. You think you can save me? You are the curse. Kel's jaw clenched as he fought to suppress it. No, she's the light. The voice laughed inside him, a cruel ancient echo. Light burns, light kills. You killed her once, do it again. Kel roared, clutching his head. Blood poured from his mouth as the transformation completed. When he looked up, he was no longer a man. The alpha beast stood in his place, taller than any wolf, its fur black as the void, eyes glowing white like the moon itself. Lyra froze, staring into the face of the monster who had destroyed her village, the same monster she had come to love. The wolf lunged. Lyra dove aside, the ground exploding where she'd stood. She rolled, grabbed the fallen silver dagger, and faced him. Her heart screamed against her mind. Kale, you said death wasn't the problem. Living was. So live. The wolf growled, circling her. His movements were predatory, but his eyes flickered gold for an instant. Kale was still in there, fighting. She took a shaky breath. You told me the moon never makes mistakes. Then why does it keep bringing us back to each other? The beast hesitated. Lyra stepped closer, trembling but unbroken. If I am the fire, then burn with me. She pressed the dagger to her palm, blood spilling into the soil. The pendant mark over her heart flared like the sun. By the moon's law and the blood of the priestess, she whispered, I claim you. The wolf froze mid-lunge, every muscle locked. Silver fire burst from the ground, binding them both in a circle of light. The air trembled. Kale's human voice screamed inside the beast's mind. No! Lyra! You'll die! But she didn't stop. Her body shook, veins glowing with lunar fire as the spell took hold. I'm not breaking you, she cried, voice trembling. I'm freeing you. The wolf roared, the sound raw and endless, like centuries of pain being torn apart. Light exploded outward, washing over the ruins, the trees, the forest itself. For a heartbeat, everything was still. Then the curse shattered. The mark on Kel's chest burned away, leaving a scar shaped like a crescent. His body fell limp, smoke rising from his skin. Lyra collapsed beside him, panting, the dagger slipping from her fingers. The blood moon above flickered and dimmed, its color fading from red to silver. She crawled to him, pressing her trembling hands against his chest. "Kale, wake up." Nothing. She sobbed, resting her forehead against his. "Don't leave me now. Not after everything." The wind whispered softly through the trees, carrying a single word. "Choose." Her mark glowed one last time, faint but steady. She knew what it meant. The curse had left her a choice. One life for another. Either Kale lived and she died, or the curse would consume them both. She closed her eyes, feeling the warmth of his fading heartbeat beneath her palms. "You were never the monster. You were the man who fought one." She leaned down and kissed him, her blood mixing with his. The light flared again, blinding, beautiful. When it faded, the forest was quiet. The storm was gone. The moon was whole again. Kel gasped, drawing in his first clean breath in a century. He looked around wildly. "Lyra?" The ruins were empty. Only her pendant lay on the stone beside him, glowing faintly with silver fire. He picked it up, clutching it to his chest. "No!" His voice broke. "No!" His howl echoed through the mountains, shaking heaven and earth. The moon listened, but this time, it didn't answer.
Dawn bled slowly into elder moon, pale light replacing the storm. The world felt empty, like it was holding its breath. Kael stood alone in the ruins, his body weak, his chest bare where the mark used to burn. The curse was gone. He could feel it, the silence inside him where the beast once howled. Yet the victory tasted like ashes. In his hand, Lyra's pendant flickered softly, its light dimming with every heartbeat. He pressed it to his lips, eyes hollow. "You gave me back my soul," he whispered, "and I lost you for it." Around him, the forest was eerily still. The wolves who had survived the night hid far from him. They could sense the shift. Their alpha was no longer one of them, powerless, mortal. Kael turned toward the east, toward the castle on the horizon. "If this kingdom cost her life," he said softly, voice breaking, "then I'll tear it down stone by stone." His eyes hardened. The king had died with the beast. What stood now was something far more dangerous, a man with nothing left to lose. Rovan watched from the cliffs above, cloak snapping in the wind. The moonlight that once chained him now felt thin, distant. He'd felt the curse break. Every wolf had. The link to the alpha was gone. "He's free," he muttered, "but weak." A voice behind him chuckled, a woman's voice, smooth and sharp. "Weakness is only fatal when you leave it to fester." Iris stepped from the shadows, her pale eyes gleaming. "The bond between man and moon has been severed, yes, but the energy must go somewhere." Rovan frowned. "What are you saying?" She smiled. "The girl's sacrifice didn't end the magic, it only moved it. The fire still burns, just not in her flesh." She extended her hand. "If you wish to rule, Beta, find the flame before he does, because when it returns, it will choose who wears the crown of wolves." Rovan hesitated, torn between greed and fear, then nodded. "If the moon won't rule us anymore, then I will." And with that, he disappeared into the forest, hunting not the alpha, but the ghost of the girl who defied him. Kael returned to Shadowfan Keep at dusk. The halls that once roared with growls and power were silent now, haunted by memory. Wolves bowed their heads as he passed, unsure whether to call him alpha or ghost. He climbed the stone steps to the throne room and stared at the iron seat that had defined his curse for centuries. "This belonged to a monster," he murmured, tracing the claw marks carved into its arms. He turned away. And monsters don't rule kingdoms. Instead, he walked to the great mirror of moons, the relic that had once shown him those marked by the curse. Its surface was cracked from when he last touched it. Now, for the first time, it was clear. And in its reflection, he saw her, Lyra, not flesh, but light, standing at the edge of the forest, eyes closed, face calm. His breath caught. "You're not gone," he whispered. He reached toward the mirror, but his hand met only cold glass. The reflection faded, leaving only his own hollow gaze staring back. That night, Kale couldn't sleep. He sat by the window staring at the moon. Its light was softer now, white, not red. "You took her," he said to the sky. "After everything she gave, you still couldn't let her stay." He clenched the pendant in his fist until it cut his skin. "If there's even a piece of her left in this world, I'll find it, even if I have to burn through heaven itself." A knock echoed through the chamber doors. A young scout entered, head bowed. "My king, Rovin's forces have gathered near the border. They march at dawn." Kale turned, his eyes cold again. "Then let them come." He rose slowly, the weight of mortality heavy on his shoulders. "I may not have the beast," he said, strapping on his armor, "but I still have the will." He looked down at the pendant one last time. "You once said I should live," he whispered, "so I will. For you." The scout hesitated. "And if you fall?" Kael's lips curved in a faint, haunted smile. "Then I'll finally see her again." Far from the keep, deep within the silverwood, a faint light flickered among the trees. It pulsed in rhythm, like a heartbeat. The air shimmered, and a figure took shape, cloaked in mist and moonlight. Lyra's eyes fluttered open. She gasped, her lungs filling with air that wasn't quite air, cool, otherworldly. Around her, the forest glowed faintly, alive with whispering spirits. She touched her chest. The mark was gone, the pendant too. Only a small crescent scar remained over her heart. "Where am I?" she whispered. The wind answered, soft and distant, between worlds, between fates. She stood unsteady, but alive, her eyes glowing faintly silver. "Kael," she breathed, the name echoing into the trees. A raven landed beside her, feathers glistening like ink. In its eyes burned a familiar golden light. She smiled faintly. "So you did it," she whispered. "You broke it." The bird called once, spreading its wings. Lyra looked toward the horizon where the castle shadow reached the sky. "Then it's my turn," she said. "This time, I'll save you." And under the hollow moon, the girl who burned rose again. The forest was alive with whispers. Every step Lyra took made the ground shimmer faintly, as though it recognized her. The silverwood existed between worlds, a threshold where souls could wander if they had something left undone. Her breath came in white clouds, and her reflection followed her in the mist, flickering between human and light. "So this is death," she murmured. "Too quiet." A voice answered softly, rippling through the trees. "Not death. Not yet." Lyra turned sharply, eyes wide. The woman from her visions, Seraphine, the first priestess, stood before her, luminous and serene. "You carry what remains of my flame," Seraphine said, "but it's fading." Lyra shook her head. "Kel's alive. I saved him." The priestess smiled sadly. "You saved his soul, yes, but the bond between you was forged through sacrifice. You walk the veil now, not the earth." Lyra's heart pounded. "Then how do I go back?" The priestess's expression grew grave. "The world will only let you return if you still have something to lose." Lyra's gaze hardened. "Then it's simple. I still have him." The priestess studied her, ancient sadness in her eyes. "Love has always been both curse and cure," she said. "But if you return, your flame will burn differently. You'll no longer be bound to mercy or to fate. You'll be something else." Lyra frowned. "Something else?" "A bridge," Seraphine said, her form beginning to dissolve into light. "Between man and moon, between life and death. But every bridge must bear weight, and eventually it breaks." Lyra stepped forward, desperate. "Please, just tell me how." The light faded except for one glowing thread that floated between them. Follow the raven, Seraphim whispered. It carries his memory. Lyra looked up, where the black bird circled above, its wings leaving trails of gold dust in the air. And when I find him? She asked. Remind him, the priestess said, her voice now just a breath on the wind, that the moon never claimed what it could not love. Then the light vanished, leaving Lyra alone beneath the ghostly trees. The raven landed before her and cawed once as if waiting. She took a deep breath. All right, she said, show me the way home. In the mortal world, the scent of war hung over Shadowfen. Kale stood on the battlements, armor dark as the sky, hair still damp from the night rain. Below, his soldiers gathered, half wolves, half men, all loyal despite fear. Raven's army had doubled in size, filled with those who could no longer feel the Alpha's bond. They marched under a new banner, black and green, the Witch's Mark. Kale's captain approached. They'll reach the valley by nightfall. Without your beast, we can't hold the border. Kale looked toward the horizon. Then we'll make them pay for every step. He paused, touching the pendant hidden beneath his armor. I once ruled because of fear. Now I'll lead because of what she believed I could be. The captain hesitated. My king, if the moon has truly abandoned us. Kale turned, eyes fierce. Then we fight without it. His voice carried like thunder. Let the world see what men can do without gods. As Kale's army prepared for war, Lyra followed the raven through the Silverwood's twisting paths. The trees grew darker, the air heavier, until she reached a glimmering lake. Its surface mirrored the mortal world, the castle, the armies, the rising storm. She gasped, falling to her knees. He's marching into death. The raven perched beside her, staring with golden eyes. Then open the gate, she whispered. Let me through. The bird tilted its head, then spread its wings. A circle of moonlight opened on the water's surface. Lyra stepped forward, but pain shot through her chest, stopping her cold. The mark on her heart blazed, the light so bright it blinded her. A voice, Seraphine's, echoed once more. Every bridge must bear weight. Every return demands a price. Lyra grit her teeth. Take it, she gasped. Take whatever you must. The light consumed her, pulling her downward, through the lake, through the worlds. Her scream echoed in both realms, and somewhere in the mortal plane, Kale froze, hand clutching his chest as if he'd been struck by lightning. The sky over Shadowfen cracked with thunder. Every soldier stopped and looked up as a streak of silver fire tore through the clouds, crashing into the valley below. The impact shook the earth. Kale's heart pounded. What was that? His captain shouted. Kale didn't answer. He knew. He felt it. The pull in his chest, the warmth that hadn't been there since she'd gone. Lyra, he breathed. He ran down the steps, ignoring the cries behind him. In the distance, smoke rose from the crater. The enemy had seen it too. Robin's army turned toward the valley, eyes gleaming. Find whatever fell from the sky, Robin ordered. If it's the flame, bring me its heart. In the heart of the crater, surrounded by burning mist, Lyra stirred. Her lungs filled with cold air. She opened her eyes, silver light spilling from them like dawn. I made it, she whispered, her voice breaking. Kale, I'm coming. The battle drums began to thunder across the valley. The war of the moon had begun.
The valley of Shadowfen burned beneath the bloodless dawn. Smoke curled through the air as banners tore in the wind. Kale stood at the front lines, sword drawn, every muscle coiled with purpose. His armor gleamed black under the pale sun, no longer the armor of a cursed king, but of a man who chose his own fate. Hold the line, he shouted. His soldiers, wolves stripped of their alpha bond, yet bound by loyalty, tightened formation. Across the battlefield, Rovin's army advanced like a storm of claws and fire, led by the witch Ira, her eyes glowing green with corruption. Kale Draven, Rovin's voice boomed across the field. Your time is over. Kale raised his sword. Then come end it. The two armies clashed, steel screaming against steel, fangs flashing through the smoke. Kale fought like a man possessed, each swing fueled by memory. The rain, her tears, the night he swore she was his. He didn't see the sky rip open behind him, didn't see the silver fire descending again, but he felt it, the warmth cutting through the cold chaos like a heartbeat. Lyra stumbled from the crater, smoke rising from her skin, the world around her vibrating with power. She was alive, but different. The line between mortal and spirit had vanished. Her eyes shimmered silver and gold, her veins pulsed with light, her heartbeat echoed faintly like a drum across the valley. The first soldier who saw her dropped his weapon, falling to his knees. "The flame," he whispered. Word spread like wildfire. Even amidst the carnage, heads turned and hearts faltered. Lyra raised her hand. The air trembled. The fire on the battlefield shifted toward her, swirling like a living creature. She whispered a single word, "Enough," and the flames obeyed. The front lines froze in shock as walls of fire curved away from Kale's men and toward Rovin's army instead. Ira screamed in fury, "Impossible!" Her magic flared green, striking at Lyra, but the spell disintegrated midair. Lyra's gaze met hers, calm, unwavering. "You played with curses, witch, but I was born of them." The ground shuddered as she stepped forward, the flame bending in reverence around her. Kale turned, breath catching. Through the smoke and fire he saw her, cloaked in silver light, walking barefoot across the battlefield as if the earth itself carried her. "Lyra," the word fell from his lips like a prayer. She looked up, meeting his eyes, and time stopped. Every sound, every scream, every heartbeat vanished. For a single breath, the world was still. He took a step forward, disbelief and awe breaking through his war-hardened face. "You're real." "I told you I'd find you," she said, her voice trembling but fierce. Then the moment shattered as arrows flew. Kale lunged, blocking them with his sword. Rovin appeared behind her, his blade slashing through the air. But Lyra spun, catching his wrist. The touch burned his skin, the light of her mark searing through his veins. "You betrayed your king, and your blood answers for it." She pushed him back, and the fire swallowed him whole. His scream tore through the valley, a sound that silenced both armies. When it faded, only ashes remained. The witch Ira hissed, vanishing into mist, her power broken. Kale reached her, breath ragged, disbelief still heavy in his eyes. "How?" he whispered. "I saw you die." Lyra touched his cheek, her hand warm and trembling. "I did die, but the moon wasn't done with us. It never is." He caught her hand, pulling her close, his voice breaking. "You shouldn't have come back. You gave everything. And I'd give it again, because you're worth more than curses and crowns." Around them, the battlefield burned in silence, soldiers watching the impossible reunion. Kale brushed her forehead against his, whispering, "If this is a dream, don't wake me." Lyra smiled faintly, tears glistening like starlight. "Then let's dream together." But before they could breathe, the ground shook violently. The sky darkened. From the ashes where Rovin fell, a massive shadow arose, a monstrous wolf made of smoke and bone, its eyes hollow voids. Lyra's voice dropped to a whisper. "The curse." Kale's jaw tightened. "He wasn't in me anymore," he said. "It was waiting." The creature roared, its voice ancient, shaking the heavens. It was the true curse, the moon beast. The darkness left when Kale's soul was freed. It moved like a storm, devouring light and life alike. Kale stepped forward, sword raised, but Lyra grabbed his arm. "You can't fight it alone." "I'm not letting it take you again," he snapped. "And I'm not letting it take you," she said fiercely. Their eyes met, fire and gold, human and divine. "Then we end it together." She raised her hands, light spiraling between her palms. Kale gripped his sword, its blade catching her glow. "Once more," he said, voice steady. "The beast meets the flame." They moved as one, charging into the storm of shadow and moonlight, their power colliding in a burst that split the sky. The soldiers fell to their knees, shielding their eyes. When the light cleared, the valley was gone. The fire had vanished. The moon beast was nowhere to be seen. Only silence remained, and two faint figures standing hand in hand in the mist.
surrounded by the calm of a world reborn.
Rain dripped from the trees in silver threads as dawn crept over Eldermoon. Lyra woke to a strange warmth spreading across her chest, the pendant glowing faintly against her skin. She touched it and felt a pulse, soft but alive, as if a second heart beat beneath the metal. Her breath hitched. This wasn't ordinary magic. The pendant had belonged to her mother, a healer known for charms that soothed pain, not ones that breathed. She whispered, "What are you?" The moment the words left her lips, the forest stirred. Ravens took flight from the branches, and a low hum echoed through the ground. Then, carved symbols appeared faintly on the pendant's back, runes older than any human tongue. Lyra had seen them once, long ago, in a forbidden book. They were lunar sigils, marks of the werewolf kings. In Shadowfen Keep, Cale Draven jolted awake. The bond had whispered to him again, like lightning behind his ribs. He stood, chest rising with barely restrained power, the scent of storm and woman in his lungs. "It's her," he muttered. Rovan entered the chamber, eyes wary. "You've been restless since the rain began," the beta said. "Tell me the truth. What binds you to this human?" Cale's eyes flicked gold. "She's not just human. There's power in her blood. The old blood." He paced toward the window where the storm clouds coiled around the castle spires. "My curse stirs when she's near. The moon calls her name." Rovan frowned. "Then kill her before she kills you." Cale's lips curved in a dangerous smile. "You don't kill the cure, Rovan. You claim it." That evening, Lyra followed the pulse of the pendant to the river's edge. Mist curled above the water like ghostly fingers. The air shimmered, and suddenly, she wasn't alone. A woman's voice floated through the mist, soft and echoing. "Child of silver flame, you bear the mark of the moon." Lyra spun around. "Who's there?" The fog thickened until a form appeared, a woman in a flowing white gown, her eyes glowing pale blue. "I am Era, seer of the old moon. Your mother hid the truth to protect you, but the king of wolves has found you." Lyra's heartbeat thundered in her ears. "Why me?" Era's gaze softened. "Because only your blood can break his curse. But if he claims you before the moon's next rise," she stepped closer, voice trembling, "you'll never be free again." The forest howled, branches snapped. Lyra turned and saw eyes in the dark, golden, fierce, familiar. Cale stepped into view, cloak dripping, the rain hissing off his skin. "You shouldn't be here," he growled. Era vanished into mist, her voice fading. "Choose wisely, child of flame." Cale's gaze locked on Lyra's pendant. "You have no idea what you carry." "Then tell me," she demanded. "Why does it burn when you're near?" His jaw clenched. "Because your blood calls to mine. You're tied to me by a bond older than time itself." He stepped closer until his breath warmed her cheek. "And that mark," his eyes glowed, "means you belong to the moon and to me." For a heartbeat, silence reigned. Only the rain dared to move. Lyra's mind screamed to run, yet her body didn't obey. She felt the power in his presence, wild, magnetic, wrong, and yet it didn't frighten her anymore.
It called to something buried deep within. "I don't belong to anyone," she whispered. Kale's lips curved, half pain, half promise. "You will," he murmured, brushing his thumb across her jaw. "The moon chose you for me, Lyra, and the moon never makes mistakes." As thunder rolled across the forest, he turned away, his voice dark and low. "Tomorrow night, the blood moon rises, and when it does, you'll see what destiny truly means." And with that, the Alpha King vanished into the mist, leaving Lyra trembling, caught between the fear of being hunted and the ache of being wanted. Weeks passed, and the kingdom of Eldermoon grew quiet again. Too quiet. The nights were darker now. The moon had not risen since the battle. The villagers called it the sleeping sky, a time of rest for the world after centuries of blood and curse. But Kyle knew silence was never just silence. He stood on the balcony of Shadowfen Keep, his hand resting over the crescent pendant that hung at his chest. "You kept your promise," he murmured to the wind. "Now it's my turn." The castle no longer echoed with roars or chains. Wolves walked the halls beside humans, their eyes wary but no longer feral. The kingdom was learning peace, though peace felt strange in a land built on war. Kyle exhaled, looking toward the forest. "Lyra," he whispered, "you said I should build something better. I will. But how do you build without light?" The air shifted slightly, brushing his face like a familiar touch. He closed his eyes and almost smiled. For a moment he swore he heard her voice, soft, teasing, alive. "You don't need the moon to see me, Kyle. You only need to look where life grows again." The next morning he rolled through the valley to the edge of the Silverwood. The once burned fields were green again, covered in pale blossoms that glowed faintly at night. Children of wolves and humans played in the riverbanks without fear. As he passed, they bowed their heads, not to a king, but to a guardian. Kyle dismounted, his boots sinking into the dew. At the heart of the forest stood the willow tree, its branches now shimmering silver instead of green. Beneath it, flowers bloomed in a perfect circle, glowing faintly even in daylight. He knelt, tracing a petal with his hand. It pulsed once beneath his touch, alive with warmth. "You're here," he whispered. "Still stubborn." The petals fluttered, caught in a breeze that didn't belong to the wind. The air smelt faintly of rain, the same scent from the night he found her crying. A tear slid down his cheek, though he smiled through it. "You'd laugh if you saw me now, a wolf learning to plant seeds." His voice caught. "But maybe that's what kings were meant to do all along." At sunset, Kyle gathered his council in the great hall. The room that once reeked of power now glowed with firelight and maps of farmlands instead of battlefields. "We'll dissolve the throne," he said steadily. "No one rules by birth anymore. The land belongs to its people. Wolves will serve beside humans in the new council. Let every child born after this day know no master but their own will." Murmurs rippled through the hall. One elder rose. "And you, my lord, what of the Alpha's line?" Kyle smiled faintly, shaking his head. "It ends with me." The elder bowed, tears in his eyes. "Then peace truly begins." Kyle turned toward the open window, watching stars flicker faintly where the moon refused to rise. "No," he murmured quietly to himself. "Peace begins when she returns." He didn't see it, but a soft glow lingered in the corner of the hall, faint silver dust swirling like a sigh. That night, as sleep finally claimed him, Kyle dreamed of her again. Not as flame, not as priestess, but as Lyra, the girl with wet hair, kneeling in the rain clutching her mother's pendant. She smiled at him, her eyes bright. "You kept your promise," she said. "The kingdom breathes again." He reached for her, his hand trembling. "Then come home," he whispered, but her smile was sad. "I am home. He looked around, the dream shifted. The silver wood surrounded them, alive and luminous, its roots pulsing with her light. She stepped closer, pressing her hand over his heart. "You carry me here," she said softly. "Every time you choose mercy over anger, every time you listen before you strike, that's where I live now." His eyes burned. "I don't want to remember you. I want to see you." She leaned close, her voice a breath. "Then open your eyes, Kyle." He did, and woke to moonlight spilling through the window for the first time in months. The moon had returned, but it was different, no longer red or white. Its glow was gentle, tinged with silver and gold. The land stirred beneath it, blooming anew. Kyle walked to the balcony, bathed in the light he thought he'd never see again. "You kept your promise, too," he whispered. Far below, the silver wood shimmered faintly, 1,000 blossoms glowing like stars on earth. Somewhere within them, a faint silhouette moved, a woman of light, hair flowing like the wind. He didn't speak, he only smiled. The night answered with a soft breeze and a whisper that brushed his ear. "From now on, you're mine." Kyle closed his eyes, heart steady and full. Always. The Alpha King was no more, the man remained, and in the kingdom without a moon, love had become the light that led them home.
Years passed, but the story of the Alpha King and the Flame never faded. Children told it by firesides, and elders swore that on clear nights, you could still see two figures walking hand in hand across the silver edge of the moon. Cal kept his promise. The kingdom thrived without crowns or chains. Humans and wolves lived side by side, tending the same soil, raising their young beneath a sky finally free of blood. Yet in quiet moments, he still felt her. When the rain fell softly against the stones, when the willow's petals brushed his face, when laughter echoed through the valley. He aged slowly, touched still by the remnants of old magic, but time no longer frightened him. "You gave me peace," he would whisper to the wind, "and peace is a kind of eternity." His people called him the Keeper now, not the King. They said he carried the moon's favor in his heart, though he always smiled and corrected them gently. Not the moon, the light. One winter night, long after his hair had turned silver, Cal walked again into the silver wood. Snow blanketed the earth, glowing faintly under the golden moon. The willow still stood, ageless and serene. He laid his hand upon its trunk, feeling the pulse of life within. "I've done what you asked," he said softly. "The kingdom endures. The wolves have learned to love without fear." His breath clouded in the cold air. "But I think I'm tired, Lyra." The breeze stirred, wrapping around him like an embrace. He closed his eyes, smiling faintly. "If you're still watching, I'm ready." The forest glowed brighter, petals rising from the snow, swirling around him in a dance of light. He felt warmth spread through his chest, familiar, tender. When he opened his eyes again, she stood before him, radiant as the night he first saw her. "You kept your word," she said, her voice like rain on stone. "And you kept yours," he murmured. "You came back." Lyra smiled, stepping closer. "I never left," she said. Her hand brushed his cheek, and the years seemed to fall away. The wrinkles faded, the scars healed. He looked down at himself, startled. "Am I dreaming?" She shook her head. "Dreams fade. This doesn't." Her gaze softened. "You taught the world how to live without power, how to love without fear. You've paid your price." He reached for her hand, their fingers intertwining as light gathered around them. "Then what happens now?" "Now," she whispered, "we go home." The forest shimmered, its roots glowing like rivers of starlight. Every leaf, every flower, every living thing seemed to hum in harmony. The sky opened above them, a path of silver stretching into the heavens. Cal glanced up, then back at her. "From now on," he said quietly, "you're mine." Lyra laughed softly, eyes bright with tears. "You said that before." "And I'll keep saying it," he replied, his voice breaking.
until the stars forget to shine. Together they stepped into the light. The world didn't mourn, it celebrated. The moment they vanished, the willow burst into bloom, petals raining across the land like tiny moons. The people who found the clearing later said they heard music, soft, endless, beautiful. And when they looked up, the moon no longer hid behind clouds. It shone with twin hues of gold and silver, as if two souls shared its glow. Elder Moon flourished for generations under that light. Wolves no longer howled in sorrow, but sang to the sky in gratitude. And every year, when the rain came warm and sudden, lovers would stand beneath it, whispering the same words. From now on, you're mine. Time rolled forward, but the bond they forged remained. And the heart of every fire, and the calm of every storm, their story endured. A reminder that love is not bound by curses, nor broken by death. Somewhere beyond the stars, where no god ruled and no shadow fell, two figures walked through an endless meadow of light. His hand in hers, her smile like dawn. Cal turned to her, his voice soft. "Do you think they'll remember us?" Lyra leaned her head against his shoulder. "They already do." The horizon stretched ahead, shimmering with eternity. And as they disappeared into it, Alpha and Flame, King and Healer, Beast and Light. Their laughter echoed one last time, weaving itself into the fabric of forever. The story ended, but the love remained, endless, fearless, and eternal.
Thank you for staying till the end. Please do well to like and subscribe to the channel, and also don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comment. It means a lot to me.